Welcome to the Elite Athlete Podcast. I am Dr. Nicole Tatro, and I'm here to help you unleash your peak performance and dominate your sport with fierce confidence and unstoppable energy. Whether you're a high-level athlete, a dedicated parent, a coach, or an agent, this podcast is for you. Get ready for ultimate strategies, expert insights, and cutting-edge tips that will take your game to the next level. We'll also cover personalized blood work analysis to provide unique insights that can transform your performance. We'll explore personalized health, optimized nutrition, and powerful recovery techniques. Whether you're on the ice, the field, or in the gym, together, we'll unlock your true potential and make your athletic dreams a reality. Let's do this, because greatness is within you, and it's time to unleash it. Welcome back to the Elite Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Tatro, and today I have a special treat for you. This is the first time I've had more than one guest on at a time, so I'm really excited today to introduce you to Blake Lewis. Blake is the owner and founder of Icebreakers Advisory. Welcome, Blake.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And Blake also connected me with Dr. Bryce Campbe, who is a fellow physical therapist, and he does hockey off-ice coaching for the past 7 years with, I guess, recently opening up your own practice?
Yes.
Yeah, with an emphasis on training and treating hockey players all the way from 8U all the way to pro. So welcome, Dr. Bryce.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dr. Nicole. Appreciate it.
This is going to be so exciting. So I feel like this episode will be appropriate for all of our elite athletes listening in. However, the three of us have a big connection. I've already kind of given it away with hockey. So I thought maybe I'll start with you, Blake. You can tell me a little bit about what is the Icebreakers Advisory? What do you do for our hockey players?
Yeah, so we're a big program now. We have all types of players across the US, Canada. We're even working with some players in Europe now. And our goal is to help guide these players on the path to juniors, to college, whatever the player's goal is, whether it's, high school. I want to make a high school team. If I want to play AAA, if I want to play junior, if I want to play college, our goal is to help them, obviously complete their goals. And we do, a lot of things to help them with that. We work on development on ice, off ice where Bryce comes in. And then we also work with, obviously I have a bunch of perspicacity in which I've learned through my career. And I've understand, there's certain elements of hockey that help me succeed. And there's certain elements that, didn't work out for me. And I get to learn from my experiences and kind of share my experiences with the players that I work with. And I know all kinds of people now, at the collegiate level, at the professional level that I get to talk to each and every single day. And I get to learn through their experiences and kind of help, the players that we work with, grow and accomplish their goals through our shared experiences.
That's incredible. I love what you said about learning from things that didn't work and did work with you, because as a hockey mom, so I was telling these guys off when we weren't recording that I did not play hockey. I played high-level sports. Unfortunately, I'm dating myself, but hockey wasn't available in high school in my area when I was in high school. I totally would have played because I was a field hockey player and I just played basketball because that was the only thing available to me, but I also softball. So hockey is not my wheelhouse as far as the actual sport. However, being a hockey mom, from when they were little, and actually my boys started late. They started when they were 6 and 7, and that's late in the hockey world.
That is.
Yeah, right. But they just all of a sudden they were just athletes, and it just clicked. But we are, just like you said, in that junior brutal stage is what I'm calling it as a hockey mom right now with our oldest. And I just thank you for your help, by the way. So obviously that's our connection. I'm not sure what we would do because as hockey parents, I have no idea. I don't know what the right thing is. It's brutal.
Have you strapped on a pair of skates yet? I'm sure there's a lot of transfer with field hockey.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. So it's been a few years. However, one year, I can't remember how old the boys were, but one year at Christmas, I opened up a gigantic box and I can't even believe it. It wasn't even used. It was brand new hockey stuff. So I did play in the women's league for several years, and it just got really hard when we moved. We moved to a different town for hockey to get closer to where we had to travel. It was just difficult. Couldn't drive back. It was Sunday nights at like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So as a mom, that was really
Right.
hard. But I was getting really good at it. One time we did like paper plate awards towards the end. And I'm talking, this is, mom's league, right? But we did have some like college players come in and help us out. But I got the paper plate award for best backhand one time. So, yeah.
There you go.
That's pretty good.
So I
Been
did.
watching, sorry to interrupt, but have you been watching field hockey at all in the Olympics?
Yes.
I mean, that's great stuff over there.
Oh my gosh. So so we're local too. I don't know if you know St. Mike's College here in
Oh, yeah.
Vermont.
Oh,
So my daughter is starting to excel in field hockey. So we just went to Carla Hessler's camp. She's the head coach at St. Mike's. And when we were leaving, she's like, I'm going to be in Paris. So I'm just really jealous that we actually have a local connection that's watching right now. So
That's
very
awesome.
cool. Some people don't understand the sport, but I love it. It's phenomenal. And I have a lot of girls, especially some of my stronger players play ice hockey. So
Really.
they steal from, like, ice hockey steals from my practices sometimes because, hockey is year round and really heavily starts in the fall. So they have to juggle the schedule.
So you actually have
Yeah.
high school field hockey teams?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's very strong in my area. And I coach the middle school. And we have a very good high school coach right now who played in college herself.
Yeah.
She played at UVM, actually. So we have, between myself, so I played at Sacred Heart University years ago. I'm trying not to make myself sound too old, but so between her and myself and all the people that we've gathered in helping, we've really created a strong program in our local area for the last few years. So it's very exciting.
That's awesome. We don't really have field hockey, as far as I know, around here much at all.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like, my kids didn't play, for example, lacrosse because we didn't have it in my small community, so they were wonderful baseball players. But actually, my middle guy, he goes to school in Connecticut. He switched over to lacrosse. Well, he did it in his junior boarding year. He switched over his last year to lacrosse, and he just excelled. And last year, he was the leading scorer, only
Wow.
on his second year playing lacrosse.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm blessed with athletes, so they just can take it up. But obviously, as you both can imagine, hockey translated to lacrosse, there's a lot of hockey players that play lacrosse because I guess the transition must be easier. I didn't play lacrosse either. I was a softball player.
Yeah, lacrosse is I think it used to be, or at least recently, it was the number one growing sport in Indiana. And then a big, what do you call it? A lot of the hockey players were playing like dual sports with lacrosse too. And they weren't playing any other sports. You don't really hear about a whole lot of hockey players playing basketball and football, and, they
No,
overlap with the seasons.
I think it's easier to overlap, at least in my experience with the boarding schools, that Aiden played soccer. So my middle guy, he played soccer one year. No, he can continue through his junior boarding. They encourage you to play all three sports. It's when Owen went to Cushing, he actually started just doing hockey because when he was in the spring, he would work out. So it's hard. It was hard for us to have them let go of all of their sports because they're such good, well-rounded athletes. And as a physical therapist, maybe Bryce, you can feel this way. It's sometimes not the best for your body to only do one sport. But as we might talk to Blake about this, like, you have to really put in the time to that one, excelling and mastering that skill.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. It's like I said, though, back to the whole brutal thing, like this, like, I started with T-ball with the kids, and it's like now you're going to this high level caliber of tryouts and making teams and getting, in the top 3 lineups. It's a lot.
Yeah. When did your
Yeah.
boys, sorry, go ahead, Blake.
No, I'd just be, kind of building off that. I'd be curious to see, in the realm of sports, if you look at all the, best athletes at their respective sport, I wonder how many of those athletes played multiple sports growing up. And I feel like it's a really good thing to play multiple sports. And, I think high school is a good age to kind of specialize and really focus in on whatever sport you want to, go with. But I think there's a lot of good things that can come out of playing multiple sports. And kind of going into field hockey and lacrosse, a lot of these sports transition into each other. So like soccer, like hockey, like lacrosse, there's so many sports that where you can learn something in one sport and it can kind of translate to that next sport. So I'd just be curious to see how many high level athletes, the best of the best, how many of those players played multiple sports, and I would assume it would be a lot of them.
I think too, like, for example, it feels like I'm bragging here on Aiden, but he picked up lacrosse in like a second. But he's
Yeah,
also our kid when he was young. He could throw, I mean, we didn't have football. There wasn't enough. We lived in a small rural area. So we had the basics. We had soccer, basketball. There was hockey at that time for them and baseball, right? But he could pick up a football and throw it, and we're like, "Who? Nobody taught you how to throw a football." But I think
yeah,
that some people are blessed with, athletic genes, and luckily, I think my kids have that, and then
yeah.
we can add the other things that hopefully we get to talk about today about their health, and then, they have the drive. But
Yeah, I
so
think there's a big skill development part of it for sure growing up, especially if coming from parents that have the background of athletics, whether or not you're actually playing sports with them in the backyard, just playing in general, I think, does a lot for their development. And throwing a ball, whatever it is, just kind of exposing them to all the different things helps long term. And then like when you start to specialize, like if you play hockey and then you start to play lacrosse, the stick skills transfer too. So it's cool to see how fast kids can learn that stuff and pick it up pretty quickly when they have some other background in another sport.
I
I
think it's
know.
super cool to see for sure.
Yeah. I know for lacrosse in particular too. I mean, I went to Culver and we had pretty good lacrosse and hockey team there, and a lot of my buddies that played both hockey and lacrosse. One thing they would always say about lacrosse in particular is that all the hockey players are really good at ground balls. So I'd just be curious to see if Aiden was the same way, and if that's something a lot of hockey players have, where it's you focus on using your stick and utilizing the puck on the ice, where it transitions to lacrosse, where you're usually throwing it up in the air, but when you get those ground balls and you have to dig into the dirt and dig into the grass to get those balls, I feel like that kind of is a good example of how hockey can transition to lacrosse. I'm sure there's ways where lacrosse transitions to hockey and can make a hockey player better as well, but one thing in particular I'd always hear at Culver is like, "Oh, the hockey guys are really good at ground balls." So it is really cool to see, how, these sports can transition over to one another, and, where, someone who focuses on hockey or someone who focuses on lacrosse or soccer, field hockey, whatever it might be, how their sport can make them better at a certain skill in a different sport.
It's so funny you say that because I'm probably gonna embarrass myself because I don't know lacrosse very well because it's just been brought into our lives in the last 2 years, and him being
Yeah.
away, like, I'm not there all the time. But they used to tell him to stop. Ugh, I don't know the name of this, but his shot,
Yeah.
instead of coming over the top, he comes
Okay.
below. So it's so funny you said that because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, I wonder if that is because of his hockey ability." He has a crazy hockey shot. But he makes it work even though everyone discouraged him because apparently the ball would go up, right? If you're
Yeah.
But he doesn't because it comes in and I have no idea. To me, I'm like, "Well, if I see it go in the net, it's good, right?"
Yeah, he just trained
I mean,
himself to be able to do it.
Yeah.
like he just did it, right? Like he actually still is learning the rules because it's crazy. I didn't understand. I still don't understand. It's kind of funny. People laugh at field hockey. I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "What is going on in this lacrosse field right now?" Like they're
Yeah.
going on and off. I don't get it. But it's funny you say that because of the way that he comes up underneath for his shot, and it just works. And people
Yeah.
say it's very hard to defend that way. Maybe it's because he's a hockey player. I don't know.
And they're probably not used to it. Like, "Oh, this is kinda new," so
That's
Yeah.
funny. That's funny. So switching gears a little bit, guys, I'm wondering, so as I think I told you a little bit, I'm very big on I'm going to let Dr. Bryce do the strength and conditioning and that piece, and we'll let Blake, guide them where they need to go. But I love to talk about like their internal stats. That's kind of what I've been calling it because they can do all these things. They can hire Blake. They could go see you, Dr. Bryce, right? They can have the best, they could find the best, what, prep school, junior league, whatever. But if they're not taking care of their insides, if their internal stats, you know, first, we might not see their true potential and we won't even know about it. Or they could be getting sick, they're injured, their recovery isn't as good. So I thought maybe this would be really great for the three of us to discuss what we might think are gaps in these high-level hockey players, or what have you seen in your experience, both on the ice and off the ice? Because I'm talking about, if they can't handle their training, routines, or if they can't handle, the tough competitions. I don't know. I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about the health of these high-level hockey players and how it transfers onto the hockey team.
Yeah. So, I don't know how it works for other sports, but I know hockey in particular. A lot of guys do the right things on the ice. They work on what they need to work on. If you're a forward, they work on, being able to hold on to the puck and not get knocked off the puck, getting your shot off quick and stride, passing the puck up ice, and always being aware there's certain things that they do on the ice that is good. And in the same sense, they might be going to the gym, working out, doing all the right workouts, doing what they need to do, become, faster, stronger, more agile, maybe have a better vertical jump, whatever it might be that their goal is. But the biggest problem that I've seen, especially with younger athletes, is not eating the right things, not putting the right things to their body. And I think a big difference maker and wanting to become, the top at your sport is nutrition and what you put into your body. And it's amazing to see, how athletes kind of change how they eat compared to, for instance, in high school to where they go in college. And it seems like college kind of teaches you more of these things. But if you can get like a earlier jump on learning what to put in your body and how that works for you, and just learning as much as you can about your body, because I feel like every body's different. I'm not an expert when it comes to this, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring in Bryce, because he's much more knowledgeable than me with all of this stuff. But I do know that putting the right nutrition in your body is very important, and that can make the difference between that extra stride on the ice, or maybe even scoring a big time goal.
I like
100%.
how Blake, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, and I like how kind of Blake broke it down and with being, different positions and how you have your different objectives and your specialty, I guess, if you will, if you're a defenseman or if you're a forward and you have your own job and your priorities. And I think with that, I'm a big nerd, which is why I was really excited when I kind of learned about what you were doing. I like data and ways of knowing that what are you doing that's working, what's not working, and how much time should you dedicate to the things that you think you should be doing versus not, right? So kind of coming up with a game plan. I think especially now there's so many things that players kind of get distracted by. They have all this information, but they don't really know what to do with it. So I think with like being a forward, especially with high level hockey players, we talk about it, coming up with like a diagnostic, right, on kind of where their body is and having baseline information, whether it's like, their internal stats, like you're talking about, or from like a hockey player's perspective, what does it take to be at that high level? And if you kind of work backwards, like think about it, okay, if I want to play Division I hockey or I want to go pro, what do the best guys do at that level, right? If you're a forward, are you scoring goals, right? Those are the big things: goals, assists, and your points. So breaking it down, how do I score more goals? How do I get more assists? And how do I get more points? So you have to break it down and see what the skills are at each level to be able to do that. Are you weak on the puck? Do you not take enough shots? Are your shots even accurate? Like those on ice coaches can break that stuff down. And then you have the off ice component, which is kind of coming up like the nutrition, your vertical jump, like Blake mentioned, and kind of seeing those areas of your game that are weak. From my perspective on this, when I do testing with all my athletes, kind of similar to like your internal stat testing and having a baseline. We run through all the combine tests that they do in the NHL. There's a lot of controversy in how much that actually helps. But my side tangent on this is you have to have some kind of baseline to see what I call it your athletic potential is, right? If you're off the ice, if you're slow, you're weak and you're not powerful, you're not just going to magically become that on the ice, right? So it's kind of my way to tease out, if you are strong, powerful, and quick off the ice, you should have the potential to be like that on the ice. If you're not, then it's a skating problem or it's a skill issue, right? So don't spend, if you have an hour of your day to be able to work on off ice or on ice, if you're strong, powerful, and you have those check boxes, use it on the ice with an on ice coach. Now, if you're not, then spend it on, off ice. And I kind of think that is like a transition with what you do. If you don't have these set numbers, how can we make them better, right? And if we have those baseline numbers with professional athletes or those level or the high level athletes at that caliber, it's like, well, how do I get there? So I think, and from me, I'd love to hear your kind of insight on that and on where that data comes in for you and how you help the performance.
Yeah, this stuff, like I said, we could nerd out all day long,
Mhm.
right? It is so fascinating. When I started learning and becoming the functional blood work specialist, to be quite honest, full on transparency, I was working with my moms in my in-person clinic. I mostly work with women. That's kind of where my last few years have been in my in-person clinic. And then I started looking at it like, wow, because of what we just talked about with my boys, they are moving towards striving. They want to play D1 hockey. They want to go further. They're not ready to stop yet. So I know them well, obviously. So it's kind of cheating, right? But I demanded at the doctor's office to get the blood work done for them. Okay, so I have been calling it internal stats. So what I mean by that is knowing your numbers. So it's kind of like I've been saying, test, don't guess. So let's say if an athlete you were just saying, Dr. Bryce, like they're not getting the best vertical jump, right? What if it's their recovery? Right? Recovery on the outside, if they're not sleeping well, that's a huge part of it. Like, those are things that we can actually kind of see. Like, are they using their device, all the way up till bedtime? So, those are things that we can really, you know, put our finger on. However, if we don't know what's really going on inside their body, and I'm talking about blood work markers, some of these are some of the traditional blood work markers that uh, the thing is with the athletes, not a lot of them get them. So when I was working mostly in my practice with women, a lot of the, middle-aged women go and get blood work done, even though they're sent away and said they're normal. And that's a whole different topic that I've been dealing with those people. But the problem is our athletes aren't really being told to get any blood work. In fact, when I had my kids, so I was very curious about all three of my kids, and I wanted to get their blood work. One out of the three doctors, well, the boys have the same doctor. I'm not going to call anyone out, but it was a little bit difficult. And I just thought it'd be easy to get it through the doctor's office. But the thing that I got back from the doctor's office was they're healthy, right? If
Mhm.
you're listening, you can't see me do my little air quotes, but they're healthy. There's no need. So I had to gather myself and I professionally disagreed and said, I don't believe that's true. I feel like we could really find out some things. And I told them a couple of symptoms that my kids were having, and we were able to get some blood work. Now, if that hadn't gone well, it's okay because I've teamed up with a couple of companies that we can bypass that process and get the blood work ordered no matter where you live. So that's really, really cool. And in fact, if we go that route, then we can really make sure they're getting the markers that I want to look at instead of just whatever the doctor's like, oh, they don't need this, they need this. Um, so hopefully I don't go all over the place with this, but so with my kids, we looked at, mostly the traditional stuff. They didn't get any crazy extra markers done, but it was fascinating to see some of the things that are off. Like, let's talk about an easy one. Vitamin D. So many of us are actually really low in vitamin D. And if I can back up a little bit here, I don't look at the ranges that come back from the actual lab or the doctor's office. Those ranges are too big, especially for our high-level hockey players or high-level athletes. I look at a smaller range, a more functional range. I tell this story a lot. I think I've done it on a few episodes where imagine, so I'm in Vermont, right? And where are you guys? You guys are in Indiana. Let's just say,
Yep.
Indiana.
okay, no, you're in Indiana, but let's go even further. Let's say California. Let's say LA. So if we're in Vermont and we're looking for our favorite restaurant from Vermont to LA, that is huge, right? So if we shrunk it down to just looking for our favorite restaurant in Vermont, that's kind of the equivalent of what I'm doing with the functional ranges. Especially for these high-level athletes, we want to catch something before it becomes a disease or a real big issue. Because lots of times when their labs come back from the traditional way, they don't do anything if they're on the outskirts. Don't get me started on that. It's probably because they don't know what to do with them. But like, why wouldn't we want to catch that? And if we're talking about our high-level hockey players, we need to catch that because maybe that's why they're not getting the best vertical jump with you in your office. Maybe that's not why they're getting that explosive speed. Even though they're trying and they're doing every drill that you've told them or the on-ice coaches are telling them, their physical body just can't do it. So, for example, vitamin D, like we just mentioned, you need vitamin D in almost every, system, every organ, every process that's happening in the body. And if that's taint, and a lot of like my colleagues, my mentors, we have a high number for that. Like when your vitamin D is coming lower than like 80 is my number. If it's lower than 80, we need to do something about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like, isn't that crazy?
So how often, I guess, do you recommend getting the stats? Because I noticed sorry, two-part question then, because I noticed you also have like your program that what is your accelerator program? Is that right? So like, do you get like your stats, then would it be like 90 days later? Or I guess how long does it take
So
for those numbers?
no, actually, so for blood work, we actually, so everybody's different, right? And you have to look at things case by case, because if we're dealing with something maybe a little bit more serious, maybe we're, consulting with their physician, maybe there might be something a little bit more. But on a general basis, what I'm seeing every 6 months is good. Because say we look at it right now, and then if we implement a program, like say you brought up my accelerated program. So that's the 90-day program where a little less one-on-one, a little less personalization. However, it is geared towards high-level athletes in basically getting the body ready, healing the system, which we can talk a little bit of, is like cleaning up the gut, and then nourishing the system. So that's the 90 days there. Let's just take that for example. When we start, like, say we're trying to eradicate some low-lying infections that you didn't even know you had, your blood numbers can go a little wacky. So why would we want to look at it too soon is kind of what I'm saying. So 6 months is a good marker. Timeline is what I've been recommending, and a lot of my mentors are recommending that as well. So I created a higher touch program called my MVP. That's where it's 6 months. So say we're looking at blood work in the beginning, and then we tailor the entire program 6 months to their actual blood work numbers. And that gives me some time to really look at, okay, is their gut off? So we have different markers that can tell us if there's leaky gut or just if there's just detox problems going on. And, I know that's a buzzword, but it should be a normal functioning going on in our body. And with our high level athletes, we need to make sure we're clearing out those toxins, we're clearing out things so that, they're putting high demands on their body. So
Mhm.
these systems, the tissues, all at the cellular level, they have to work well and in synergy. But I mean, I could go on, but, giving you an example, I think he gave me permission, so it's okay. So one of my boys, his liver markers were really elevated. In fact, one of them, so ALT and AST, so those are liver markers. One of them was high on the traditional scale, like when you get back from the doctor. So at first glance, as a mom, I'm like, whoa, I got a little nervous because you start saying liver marker, right? And then I took a step back and put on my athletic health coaching lens. And because this is so personal to me, I stepped back and actually consulted with a couple of my mentors. And we decided that we're not going to go crazy. It could be as crazy as him eating his protein, like too much of his protein at one time. And how about going to bed on a full stomach so the pancreas doesn't have time to digest? And, we could get all nerdy, right?
Mhm.
But those are the ways that we can optimize, very individualized. Does that make sense? Does that start to answer that question a little bit?
Yeah, it does. And I guess I kind of want to ask Blake this then too, with him playing at the level that he did and being on the ice and practices and all of that, and now working with these athletes and kind of taking a 10,000 foot approach with it. Where do you see your guys, or when you were playing, like, the biggest things that would like limit your quality of practices or your training and stuff? Is it like you're just super tired and fatigued? Or are you just mentally burnt out? Like,
For me, it was travel. I mean, there were a lot of times, especially, where I played in Texas, and we'd have bus rides that were over 15 hours, and it's tough, especially, a lot of times when you're new to a league, you have to, there's not enough places to sleep. So you might have to sleep on the floor, you might have to sleep on a couch, whatever it might be. So I think traveling was very tough. And it was tough when you get to a new city, a new location, and you just got off a bus. A 12-hour bus ride or a 15-hour bus ride, and you're expected to perform that next day, or even sometimes, depending on how travel goes. Let's say a bus breaks down or there's some unfortunate weather. Sometimes you have to travel, then you have a few hours to prep before getting into a game. And I felt like when I was a player, and a lot of players that I've worked with, that sometimes traveling is not a good thing, in the sense that it doesn't allow you to perform to the best of your ability. And if you look at a lot of these leagues, like the NHL, a lot of these top leagues in Europe, Division One, Division Three, most of these teams get to wherever they're going a day before, 2 days before, so they can kind of get used to the new environment, and get back on the routine. So I think traveling has been a huge example of what can potentially get a player off their game. And obviously, I don't know the science behind that, but that's one thing I've noticed, and in particular too, now in the Null South, which is one of the divisions in hockey for juniors, a guy that's playing in Texas, where I was playing in Corpus. It was on the ocean. So I'd have to go from, for example, you go playing on the elevation of the ocean to going to play in Colorado, which is very different. So there's all types of things that come into it. But I feel like traveling is one of those instances where it's like, okay, if I know I have to travel a far length, and I have to be able to perform either that day or the day after, I know, okay, this might be a little tough. I might be a little tired.
I think that's what's so crazy is we can't change that. That is like an external stressor.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times in my practice, what I'm emphasizing is we can't change the outside world, right? I mean, we could go as far as saying there's construction outside my clinic right now. I can't change the yucky smell that's happening. I can't change that. However, we can optimize our internal body, our internal health, and our overall health, I guess is the best way I can describe it, to be able to handle those stressors, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, no,
take
I
care of
agree.
I mentioned briefly, a lot of us have these underlying infections that we don't even know that's happening. Like maybe you had mono as a kid, or, EBV, or something's hanging out in there. But if we don't figure out how to keep those under control, those kind of steal some of our energy. And then doing the travel, like you said, is even harder. So, we can't take away all of these stressors, but
Yeah.
if we can optimize them to the best of their ability to be able to recover. And then maybe you throw in some lifestyle habits in there as well.
Yeah.
There's some tricks when you travel from the East to West Coast I mean, I'm not going to get into it now, but like exposing yourself to, afternoon light versus daylight. There are some tricks to certain things like that. But the fact is you can't take away the travel, right?
That's why I think the blood work is so interesting as well, because if you understand your body more, that's where you can start to create routines, and avoid those external possibilities of, oh yeah, like I have to travel this far and I might have to play the day of. But if you have a routine, if you know how your body works, and if you're able to get that blood work and kind of understand those things, you can kind of create that routine that works for yourself, and you know what your body's capable of, so you might be better prepared for that game, or if it's practice, or if it's camp, whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
do you
Oh,
go ahead?
sorry. I was
No,
just
you're
going to
fine.
say, I just did a blood work analysis for a high level female hockey player. She's just turned 16, and
Okay.
she's getting dizzy and lightheaded with exertion, either on the ice with her skates, the summer skates, whatever she's doing at home, and also with her workouts. So her mom's like, I need you to look at her blood work. And she had mono in November. So very interesting.
Mm.
Now, I assumed, you never want to assume anything, that her monocytes were going to be flared way up, and they weren't. They were up a little, but it's interesting how when you have one infection going on in the body, you have multiple. And then, not to get gross, but then you're talking about parasites and all these things. And then I don't know what came first, but with this young lady, we have to address her gut first because a lot of things start in the gut. So if we don't heal her gut, like she's showing signs of some autoimmune stuff happening, she's getting sick all the time. Uh, I guess her mom said she just broke out in a rash, just weird, weird things that you wouldn't think that we'd be talking about on a hockey episode podcast, right? Um, but it's fascinating to me to look at that. It's like these numbers don't lie. So it's like literally, I mean, I don't want to overuse this word or this phrase, but it's like a game changer. If people can catch on to this, it will put them higher. It will put them at a better advantage as long as they have the right mindset and they have people like Bryce and you know what I mean? Like you have to have it all. But it's
Yeah.
like this is a piece where it's one of those where I've been in the health and fitness and wellness industry my entire career. It's like, why didn't I think of this sooner?
So,
Yeah.
question with that kind of going off of Blake was saying, like with the road trips, and you have a bad day or you wake up, bad sleep, whatever, bus breaks down. Does your program have like direct interventions? Like, is it your supplement program that they can stay on or kind of take with them on the road to help them with those little bouts of fatigue or when their bodies run down than necessarily I couldn't give them advice on, like you can do little things like Blake was saying, like the habits and trying to get your water and the basic stuff, eat the high quality foods, get some sugar in you, whatever it is. But that only, like you said, it only goes so far. So I guess what kind of direct interventions can you have, quick interventions that can kind of take them up a little bit, at least back to baseline or a little higher?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, obviously if they're just beginning, that's harder. But if they're an established client, right? That means we're probably well into our program. Now, if they're in, let's say like my MVP program, that's where I'm going to give more of my one-on-one attention. They can give me a reach out to me. Like send an email, send a text, whatever is easiest for, that level athlete. Are they a texter? Do they actually pick up the phone to call? Um, so they can actually call and we can give a little tip like that, like if it's a brand new problem. However, but you were just talking about the supplements. So I'll lead into that and then tell you guys a little bit. So with this education with the blood work, it came with the treatments. So so I'm working with like biochemists and supplement experts that have been in the industry for over 20 years, like really, really smart people. It's all about synergy. They've found some professional grade products that are synergistic, meaning so we talked about vitamin D, right? That's an easy one for people to understand. You're just picking up vitamin D off the grocery store shelf, and I'm not going to name any of the big vitamin box stores, right? But we can make our imagination. I'm not putting anyone down, but a lot of those are mass produced. A lot of those have synthetic ingredients. They're not whole food, supplements. They have synthetic ingredients that might actually make you worse. So I hope that people just don't it's not a sales plug. It is like high level athletes need high level products.
So you
So
can't
you
just pick
can't
up Sunny D off the shelf and
no,
drink that before
no,
practice.
exactly. Please don't do that. And I'm sure the three of us were not trying to hurt any company. But we have to educate our people. Like marketing can be tricky. You know, for example, the word natural can be used wherever you want it on the front of the label. It means nothing.
Lost its
Like
meaning at this point, I
it
think.
means nothing. There are a few regulated terms and, we can teach you that, but anyway, you just can't grab anything. But the thing that I've done is put together synergistic products. These are, third party tested, like really good stuff, not even all just from one company. They're, different companies, but they work together and it's not just me. I'm working with some really, really smart people to help me put it together. But if they have that in their body, then they might be able to handle that breakdown of that bus. And by the way, that happened to Owen's hockey team up in, was it? Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was Aiden's. They came from Connecticut. They went all the way up into Montreal area and their bus got stuck. I'm like, oh my gosh, where's this driver from? Because I'm from Vermont. So you just learn how to drive in the snow. But I was kind of laughing on the inside when you were saying that, but it took them an entire day for the bus to get out. Like, they're in Montreal and Quebec. They're just really small little areas. And this bus just took the worst turn. But it happens, right? But I think if you can set yourself up, meaning set your body up, but all those things that we talked about, the habits too, it's not just popping a supplement. That's not the answer either. You have to be able to eat the right foods at the right times, in the right quantities. If you want to do the high level stuff, that's what it takes. Doesn't mean we can't, I like the 80-20 rule too. You can be 80% really, really good. And then the 20% of the time, your body can handle that, cake at the birthday party that you want to eat. Does that make sense?
But you still need a structure of it.
Yeah. So what have you found, Dr. Bryce, as far as, I know you mentioned that you're dabbling a little bit in the nutrition piece as well with your hockey players. What are you seeing as big needs
Well, a
in
lot
this
of it
area?
because a lot of it I see. So I work with a lot of the younger players, and even AU all the way up to 18. That's kind of the realm that I kind of work with. So a lot of it is just establishing the basic habits of things, and it's kind of crazy that even though these kids, well, I guess not that crazy with them being in school and they have these health classes, they only retain so much, and they're not really interested in a lot of it. So I try to just get the habits down. Eat your fruits and vegetables. I have all my athletes track all their stuff, just so I can kind of educate them. What is just the basic things, like what's a fruit, what's a vegetable, protein stuff. How much of that should they be getting a day based off their age, and just kind of making sure that they are being intentional. That's kind of a big thing. My kick lately is just being intentional about what you're doing.
Mhm.
So I try to establish that right off the bat, because they can clean up a lot of the performance parts of their game that maybe are, I guess, the deficits, the performance deficits, just by kind of cleaning up the basics of their nutrition, their sleep, their hydration, um, and then I kind of go from there. So most of the players I work with have either they know about it, they know what nutrition or eating healthy looks like, they know what the basics look like, but they just don't do it. And I try to kind of hold them accountable with that as kind of my job. Um, and just kind of guide them along the way. And I think that they see there's a lot more buy-in when they start to get the results that they're looking for. And same thing with, any on ice stuff. It's not just, you can't just go out there, stick and puck and shoot around and expect to get better. You have to go in there with some kind of game plan, execute it, the 80-20 rule. If you did 80% of what you're supposed to do, you're probably going to get better. But to answer your question, I guess it's, they just need a little bit more educating and a little bit more push and accountability.
I think that's the challenge amongst everything the three of us do, right?
Mhm.
I think that's a human thing too. Like what you said, I love the intentional piece. That's huge.
Yeah.
That was one of the things with my main health coaching when I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. That was one of the things they said was eat with intention, and so it kind of stuck with me for many years. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I think I've recently, so I kind of combined two ideas. One of them was a coach in the NHL, Christian Burris, who's the first one I heard of that kind of coined the term like hockey healthy habits or hockey habits. And then have you heard of the 75 hard challenge?
You know what? I have
No.
actually.
So then
I have a mentor that was
huh?
into that. I have a mentor that was really into that.
Oh, really? So I kind of combine the two things, and I call it my hockey habits 90-day challenge. I give them some guidelines with water, nutrition, sleep, and like visualization, just some basic checklists that you should kind of go throughout the day, to kind of keep you on track and to kind of jumpstart as we go into the season, just to kind of show you where you're at and where are the little areas of your game you could clean up, and kind of push yourself and just kind of put yourself in check a little bit.
I love that. That is such a great idea. I hope that really takes off for you because that's key. That's a game changer.
Yeah, and they have fun with it too, so they can kind of compete and see like, oh, I got 3 days in a row, and how many days did you accumulate over that 90 days, and hopefully they stick with it.
That's awesome. I love it. So, out of respect for your time, I know you guys are very busy. I'd love to. Now I'm putting you on the spot. Maybe I'll make you go first, Blake. Um, if you were, a couple sentences, whatever it might be, what would you like to leave the audience with today? What are your last? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and to kind of build off of what Bryce was talking about earlier. I mean, it seems like what he has going on. These players have goals, and then you have to take action steps. You have to be consistent to obviously complete an objective and to advance. And I think hockey is the same way, and especially when you're working with me. And to give you an example, the way I like to look at it is I'd love to be able to figure skate, but I don't want to be able to figure skate enough where I go out there and I twirl around and I practice it and I try to get better at it. But a good way to look at anything in life, and especially hockey, is if you have goals, you have aspirations, you need to have action steps to complete those. And if you're a hockey player that needs to become smarter, go watch hockey. The only way you're going to get smarter is if you watch hockey or if you need to become stronger. Work with Bryce and go to the gym, get stronger, work on the things you need to work on. So I think the biggest thing that any athlete or parent should take out of this is if you have goals, you want to complete something, it's up to you at the end of the day. I mean, no one's gonna help you, in a sense, get to the goal you want to get to. We're all just there to help guide you, obviously, but we're not going to be able to do it, through ourselves, through you. Like I can't go on the ice and help a player score a goal or make a good pass or do whatever it is they do on the ice. It's up to that player, right? And our job is to help guide them, but it's important to have goals and take action steps to those goals. And if you never work on those goals, if you don't work on stick handling, if you don't work on shooting, if you don't work on the things you need to work on, you'll never complete them. So I think it's important to have those goals and take action steps towards completing them. And if you do that, you should have a successful road ahead.
I love it. How about you, Dr. Bryce? What are your last thoughts?
I kind of piggybacking off of Blake. I think again, just being intentional about what you're doing and what does that mean? There's a lot of players at every level that kind of think they know what they're doing, and then they get to the point where it's their senior year of high school, and they still want to play Division 1 hockey, and it's too late because they just lost 4 years because they knew everything that they were doing. But then turns out that they didn't really have the right coach. So I think a lot of players you need a coach. I think we all need a coach. I need a coach personally, professionally, somebody that's been there, done that knows what they're doing. That can give me the cheat sheet or like the shortcut route.
Yeah.
Like guys like Blake that have played at that level. You know, we need somebody that's been there and done that so that they know they have the cheat sheet, right? They just didn't have to execute it. I always try to think about it like, if you're going into a test in school and somebody gives you the answers, all you have to do is study the answers. If you don't have the answers, you got to open up your book, study it, try to figure out the answer, and then go take the test. So having a coach kind of gives you that little shortcut or that cheat sheet to get you where you want to go. So that's my big recommendation and kind of what I'm taking away from all this and learning myself. Just go find somebody that can help you and give you that direction.
I love it. I love it so much. I talk about that all the time I think I have it on one of my website pages. It's like you have the strength and conditioning coach, you have your assistant coach, you have your head coach. So my plug is you need an athletic health coach, right? So I can't agree with you more. Now, so Blake, I am hoping that this is accurate information, but are you accepting more hockey players? Do you have space for new hockey players?
Yeah, we're always looking for new hockey players and adding players, like I said, that have goals and obviously want to accomplish them. And to, give you a little bit of an idea as well, and to kind of go back on what we were talking about a bit before. Hockey, in a lot of ways, reminds me of business. And I feel like sports can relate to, your actual life as well. And to give you an idea of what I'm saying, like you might start playing hockey, when you're younger, and let's say you're 5 or 6, you start playing hockey and you have that goal, like, okay, I want to play in the NHL. Business, same way. Let's say you start a business and you want to provide a service or you want to sell a product, and it's okay, I want to do this. And, nothing at first is complete. No idea, no goal is complete at first. You have to be consistent. You have to work on it each and every single day, and you continue to learn as you go on. So I feel like it's really important to stay consistent and kind of like what Bryce was saying earlier, try to learn as much as you can and look into players, look into coaches, look into whoever that are already successful, talk to them, try to learn as much as you can. And if you continue to build on an idea as you continue on with life, it becomes more complete. But to answer your question before that, yes, I'm always looking on to taking new players, and we want to work with players that have goals and obviously want to work hard to complete those goals.
So if there's a player that fits that category for you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website, icebreakersadvisory.com. We also have social medias. It's a good way to look for us is on the web and on Instagram in particular. We do a lot of stuff on there.
Perfect. I will make sure I grab all that information from you and put it in the show notes so that if we have a aspiring hockey player out there listening, they can find you, Blake. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you.
And
Yeah, thank you.
likewise, Dr. Bryce. So it sounds like you've got an in-person practice in Indiana. So if someone from Indiana is listening, how can they find you?
So a lot of parents typically find me on Facebook or just through email, but also Instagram is a big one. So my Instagram is the hockey doc, the underscore hockey underscore doc, DOC, or just my email as well, which I can share that with you. But yeah,
Yes,
they can
that would
reach
be
out
wonderful.
in
I
person.
love it. The hockey doc. I love it. And I feel like you've mentioned, maybe it's premature, but you are hoping to do some online stuff in the near future. Yes, is that correct?
Yep. So and I've already worked with Blake's players right now, and I'm trialing out kind of condensing my past 10 years of work with working with my teams and athletes, kind of a comprehensive program and putting it all online. So I'm trialing that out. So if anybody wants to get the off ice program, the nutrition side of things, and just overall coaching, it's completely free. I just need some feedback on what's working, what's not, so I can make adjustments. And I call it the Combine Clubs. It goes through all of my diagnostic, if you will, testing for off ice that you can do at home and get on a program based off of those results.
Well, that's amazing. So if you're listening now at the time of the recording, he just said it's free. However, it might be changing. So jump on that quickly. If you're listening to this a little later on, it might not be, right? So I am so grateful for both of you. This has been so much fun. And maybe we can do this again because I bet we could keep talking. I bet we could keep going and going. And I know, Dr. Bryce, you and I could nerd out with the science stuff. And then Blake,
Absolutely.
you're going to add in all that hockey stuff. But I appreciate your time. And if all of you that are listening, I'll make sure that I put all of their information in the show notes so that you can get in touch with them if you liked or want to have any of your questions answered. So any last words, guys, or are we good to wrap it up?
I just want to thank you for your time and having us on here. This is a lot of fun. And I think we could keep talking for hours if we started going down a rabbit hole with all the other science stuff.
I know we have to put a boundary somewhere, right?
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for giving us the time of day and having this conversation.
Awesome. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate your time. And thank you all for listening to the Elite Athlete Podcast. I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Elite Athlete Podcast. I'm Dr. Nicole Tatro, and I hope you found today's episode inspiring and empowering. If you're ready to take your performance to the next level, don't miss out on my free instant access 3-day workshop series, Elevate Your Game and Dominate Your Sport. In this workshop, you'll discover natural recovery secrets, blood work insights, and the truth about supplements to help you achieve peak performance. Sign up for instant access today and start your journey to becoming the elite athlete you're destined to be. Visit the link in the show notes and join now. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and share it with fellow athletes, parents, coaches, and agents. Your support helps us spread the word and elevate the game for many more athletes just like you. Remember, you have the power to achieve greatness. Let's do this together. Until next time, keep pushing your limits and stay unstoppable.